Special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Reignstorm Radio Show with our host, Michael Aguas. Michael, how are you today, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. We've got an exciting guest today. Really, really cool. Real
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
program.
I'm really excited that our guest today is Tyrus Shivers, and Tyrus has an amazing background. CEO, founder of Legacy Wealth Capital Group, a discipline-forged Air Force veteran turned seven-figure entrepreneur. Tyrus Shivers converts battle scars into bulletproof systems that set founders free. From a 200,000 K wipeout to orchestrating $1 million exits, every pivot sharpened the LBOS playbook. Tyrus, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Glad to be
Welcome,
here.
Tyrus, and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you again.
Let's get to it. So, you went from active duty Air Force to government contractor to building property management company from zero to 1.2 million in 18 months. What was the internal turning point that made you say, I'm done trading time for a paycheck?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So my transition from active duty to GovCon was due to being medically retired by the Air Force. So I like to tell everyone that I speak to, you got to know how to pivot because I was that 20-year veteran. I'm going to retire out of the military. I'm going to do my country, a service to my country long term. And then that was, I would say, taken away from me. And I had to pivot. Luckily, I pivoted to GovCon, which is a safe space, if you will, in work and in industry. But I realized that even with making a large paycheck or having a great salary, that didn't necessarily set me up for generational wealth. I couldn't pass down my job to my kids. They would have to go out and get their own. And my paycheck, while it was great, it provided and afforded my life a lifestyle that I didn't have growing up. It would not be able to survive 3 generations down. And so I began to look for avenues and areas where I could go and make generational wealth, create income, and not just ask for a raise on my paycheck.
So back to the military. What did the military actually install in you? Mindset, systems, mission clarity, that civilian entrepreneurship still trying to catch up to.
Mission, mission mindset. I think civilian entrepreneurs, corporate entrepreneurs, and even those who work 9 to 5s, we're so focused on when do I clock out? How many hours am I putting in? And we're trading our time for dollars, but we're not mission oriented. It's not that the mission is bigger than how I'm feeling. And that creates the discipline that we take from the military, that you do it until the job is done. And you're not necessarily doing it for yourself. You don't necessarily like everything that you do. You don't necessarily agree with it all. But the mission is bigger than each individual person. And so a lot of businesses, especially small solopreneurs, if they would just instill some discipline, a mission vision mindset, and have clarity, we knew what the mission was, we knew what we were doing it for, I know what I showed up to do, then our businesses would go a lot further than they do.
You grew to 250 units managed, and then you closed the business instead of selling it. Walk us through that moment. What happened, and what would you do differently knowing what you know today?
Oh, 100%. So from 2014 to 2019, I operated that business. Around 2017, 2018 is when I started to, after I rapidly grew, you stabilize a little bit, put more systems in, more operations, and then growth again began to happen. So almost like the hockey stick, it went down, then it boom, back up. But I started to do what a lot of entrepreneurs do, get shiny object syndrome. Oh, we're doing property management. I'm hiring contractors every day. I should start the contracting company. I should go get my contractor's license. I should flip houses. I should do repairs for other people. And as I begin to do more, I took my eye off the North Star.
The
And so
mission.
now, exactly. And so now I have over 200 units managed, but I'm also doing 40 construction projects at the same time. I'm doing client projects and my projects. I'm handling renovations for turnovers in units. So I have teams, and all the time, if you don't have people in place or you keep your eye on it, people start saying that, hey, the work is done. Can you pay me? Sure. Sure. I want to pay everybody. It's Friday. Let's get paid. Then I would go see the property and the work wasn't done.
Oh,
And so we got to bring somebody else in. And when you bring somebody else in, especially in the contracting industry, oh, this is a lot of work. Oh, they didn't do X, Y, and Z. Oh, I got to start over. Sometimes, yeah, other times, no. And so what happened was stress, tired, losing money. That's 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in the red, borrowing, going into debt, credit cards. Now you got bill collectors calling. That's a lot of stress. And to go back to the beginning, I was medically retired. So I have a medical condition, and stress exacerbates that condition, makes it worse. So when I'm laying in the bed late at night in pain, crying, trying to figure out what am I going to do next, the mindset was to get out, make everybody whole and get out. And that's what I did. So December 31st, 2019, I shut that business down. About 90 days prior, I told all my clients that I'm shutting down. I didn't help them find new property managers. I didn't try to sell the contracts. I didn't try to sell the business. I just told them at the end of the year, I'm closing down. Everything's terminated. What I would have done differently today is I would have sold that business, because once I shut it down, then people came around in my network saying, you could have sold that business. But nobody was telling me that information when I was going through the situation. And so I didn't know any better. I didn't have a family that came from owning and selling businesses. Everybody just worked hard. And that's all I knew, was to work hard, be honest, make people whole. You take the loss. And that's what I did. And then I moved on to recover into where I am today.
so bigger picture. You shared a little bit about the answer, but what did losing that company teach you that winning never could?
That in the most painful situations, number one, you have to take ownership, which I did, but the struggle clouded my judgment and it narrowed my viewpoint. Winning requires you to be able to go through the tough seasons with an open mind and clear viewpoint. A lot of businesses struggle because they only can see to the next paycheck, the next client, the next income, so they can make payroll, pay X, Y, and Z, get the whatever they're trying to do. And they miss all the opportunity because we have limited my eyesight when you're going through pain. And so to be a winner, and what losing teaches you is, if you can lose but keep your eyes open, you can recover faster. That's why most billionaires and multimillionaires will tell you they can lose everything today and it will take them far less time to get back to where they were, because now they have the vision, they can see it, and they know that opportunity is always around the corner.
See that?
Fantastic.
So that's powerful. And it'll lead in a follow-up question before I get these other questions. I think that you're so right about, we look only at this week or even the next thing. How did you shift your mindset? How did that mindset shift from, okay, I'm working on my business instead of in my business. So I need to work on it and I'm working in the business and not forgetting about on the business, the long-term goals, the big things that are coming.
Yeah, that's a great question, Neil. That came with a lot of mentorship, getting around the right people. And I had a great mentor friend of mine that I still talk to today. And I told him, I think I'm about 300,000 in debt. And he told me, yeah, I remember when I was $4 million in debt.
Ooh,
So when he told me that, I said, what did you do? How did you get out of it? And he said, I put the blinders on and I focused. And he said, you need to focus on the long-term picture and then back into how do you get there? And so with his help, with others, reading books, listening to podcasts, I was at this time period moving into 2020, COVID 2021. I was working with Dr. Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker.
Oh
I
yeah.
was his own operations. And so being around it's just motivation all the
Yeah.
time.
What he does
And
is unreal.
And that's
me
who
Unreal.
getting
he
that.
is. It's not. It's like
Exactly.
it oozes right out of his everything, man. The passion. Holy cow.
And getting
Yeah.
a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, text message, voice memo, and his energy, it helps you to begin to see, okay, there are bigger pictures here. There's more at play here. There's not just your crowded around, because he used to talk about way back surviving, striving, and thriving. And you got to get out of surviving and striving into thriving. And so just being in that ecosystem
Right.
around him and others all walking that same path, it helps you look at things a lot differently.
All right. So we're going to jump into some other questions, but I could go all day long with those kind of questions. So now, and I think that when you have that mindset, it's now putting the right people, surrounding yourself with the right people. I'm surrounding myself with the right people, and I'm sure Michael would say that's definitely true, Neil. And I am always looking at learning. I'm exactly where I want to be. That's absolutely not the case. I want to continue to grow and learn. So most entrepreneurs think capital means bank loans, pitch competitions, or chasing venture capitalists. Why is that mental model completely broken for the majority of service-based businesses?
Great question. And I like to start with whatever I say here for the listener is just to create options. It's a toolkit, it's a tool belt, and there are lots of tools. Most people only hear a couple of tools and they think that a hammer can do the job for everything, and it can't. And so, starting out as an entrepreneur, we're not even taught what capital stack means. We don't even know what that language is. So we're behind the eight ball already. But when you're being told by others who have an angle, bootstrap. Oh, you just put your blood, sweat, and tears in it, and you bootstrap your business. Then, oh, you can go get a business credit card. Then you could get a loan. And of course, bankers are telling you to come get the loan because it benefits the bank. Then you move into venture. Most venture capital firms, and specifically today, over 50% of VC funds went to AI. So if you're not in AI, you're not going to get venture. Then venture mostly likes to be around the pre-seed seed stage. A lot of these businesses are pre-seed or startup, and they're not tech enabled. So that's not the place to go for service-based business. And if you're not bringing in enough revenue, you're not going to get a bank loan. And if your credit isn't great, you're not going to get a business credit card, because what they sell you is, well, it's the business credit. Well, a brand new business doesn't have credit. So they got to have you be a personal guarantor. And if you don't have great credit, you're not going to get a business loan or a personal one. So these are the tools that are being taught. And I sit on a lot of incubator panels. I sit on a lot of accelerators. I work with a lot of counties and states. And there's always a banker or always a lender that talks about access to capital, as if those are the only tools. And for the majority of small service-based businesses, those tools don't work for them at that stage. Maybe in a later stage, but not at the stage that they are now, which is typically sub 5 million in revenue.
Okay. So walk us through Regulation CF, like our audience has never heard of it. What is it? Where did it come from? And why is it one of the most underutilized tools in an entrepreneur's toolkit?
Yeah. So back in 2012, the Jobs Act was passed, Jumpstart Our Small Businesses, or Jumpstart Our Businesses. That, amongst other things, relaxed and created some exemptions for capital raising. And it brought into effect the Regulation CF, which is equity crowdfunding. What that means is, as a small business, you can raise up to $5 million worth of capital within a year using general solicitation, which is a fancy way of saying marketing, from both accredited and non-accredited investors. Most businesses never heard of it. They think the Jobs Act was to go get jobs, as one of my partners would say. It's like, oh, we're creating jobs. No, it was for investment. Then on the flip side, most investors, angels, small VC or emerging VC firms, They don't deal with Regulation CF. So it is an underutilized tool all the way to today, but it's starting to pick up steam as a part of the capital stack. If you have a great story, great brand, and you want local community support for your service-based business, and if you could be a coffee shop, product, merchandise, manufacturing, retail, all of these are available businesses and viable businesses to go and raise capital from your ecosystem. If you think about it this way, every potential customer could be a potential investor because they can invest in lower amounts.
Powerful stuff for sure. And I think that never knew about what Regulation CF meant. So you really educated me to understand it further, but I understand the power of it. And I am going to ask for a follow up before even getting to the next question. Now, when you crowdfund, how does that work compared to other types of, getting a bank loan, or let's say, or getting, angel investors at the beginning, or VCs right at the beginning of your business?
Yeah, so here's another thing. When you go to a VC, the money that the VC is giving you is coming from a capital raise that they did. Now, they're typically using maybe a Reg D 506B, which you can't do general solicitation. You have to have a pre-existing relationship. They may do a 504. They may raise under Reg D 506C, which is unlimited capital raise, but from accredited investors only. So they're raising money that they're giving you. I don't know many bankers that put all of their money into the bank. What they do is, to start a bank, they bring some capital and then they bring investors in. So the bank money that you're borrowing from comes from investors as well. And once the bank grows, it comes from the deposits that we put in the bank. We know that banks lend our money. The way, when we think about why you should go this route or how do you go this route and what's different, is that when you go to a bank, they're going to pull your credit, they're going to look at the business, they're going to work the numbers, and then they're going to give you a loan, typically based on the debt to service coverage ratio. Can you pay this back at a percentage? If you go to a small VC, they're going to look at, or VC in general, they're going to look at what's the trajectory of the business. We know that VCs bank on 9 out of 10 failing, so they're looking for the unicorn. Can your business be that unicorn that's going to cover the rest of the failures? And then they likely want 20, 30% of your business, and they want typically a board seat so they can help manage and govern and watch you grow and be along with you on that journey. Equity crowdfunding is raising from the crowd. It's raising from both sophisticated investors and your everyday person. So it's not all about necessarily the economics of the business. It's important, but it's a lot of times about the story of the business, how you share your vision, your mission, the impact that you're making. That's why sometimes it's called impact investing, because it's really targeting underserved communities and business owners and entrepreneurs to allow them to bring their ecosystem into a raise that will help them grow that business.
How do you pay that back when it's
So yeah, very flexible. That's one of the other things that's powerful about a Regulation CF. The terms are really what you set. You could do a debt raise. So you're raising on debt and you pay it back 3 years at 12%, just throwing numbers out there. You could do a rev share raise, which means I'm gonna give you 10% of my revenue till you get X back in your money over X amount of years. Or you can do an equity raise. And we know that equity raises don't get paid back. You get paid when the business sells or goes public.
Oh, interesting. That's why a lot of people who have a really expensive business, Tyrus, and you're asking, where's your cash flow? Like, it's valued very well. They're waiting for it to sell, or they're not getting any of it. It's all tied up in other people's stuff. And you're seeing this a lot in AI, right? A lot of these
Oh,
AI
yeah.
companies are saying, oh, I have $1 billion company. It's not sold for $1 billion, so they're not getting paid like billionaires yet, are they?
No, not at all. They're raising on the future. They're raising on the potential of a 25x exit
And there's a
because
chance, and that's a very slim chance. That's why they're running so hard.
exactly. And everybody's not going to make it. 9 out of 10 won't make it.
And
But
they'll
when you
have
get
billion-dollar
one,
business potentially valued that's going to be worthless by the time this is over.
Exactly. Or they
Ah.
will get folded into another company and is the valuation's way less, and they may make some money and they may make some of their investors whole. And a lot of times they do, because when you're raising and you're private and you're starting out, that raise is minimum. I'm talking about Figma raised at 9 cents in the beginning per share. And then when they IPO'd, it was like what, 30, $40 or more.
So this is interesting. You mentioned you can raise up to 5 million. So then this is where the interesting thing comes, because if a business could raise up to that amount, they can get hire marketers, they can hire staff, and they can really scale their business, especially if it's a scalable business. Michael talks about this all the time on Reignstorm Radio about you got to have a scalable business. It can't be a business that stays stagnant. If you disappeared today, would the business still run? That is ultimately the question of getting any types of fundraising, because no one's going to invest in a business unless they think they can sell that business, because that's part of the whole investor thing. So you mentioned you can raise up to 5 million from both accredited and non-accredited investors. How does that actually work, and what does the structure look like, and what does an investor receive?
Yeah. So again, the structure can be negotiable. If you are, and number one, let's take one step back. When you set up this regulation CF raise, you're either going to use a broker dealer that's licensed, or you're going to use a FINRA registered funding portal. So those are the only two ways that you can do this legally. A lot of people out there raising capital talking about they're using promissory notes, safe notes, all these types of things. And I'm like, okay, what's the financial instrument, what's the security? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, you get out of that. But once you go through the broker dealer, the FINRA portal, either or, and you launch that raise, all the investors do is they go to that portal page or that website page and they read all of your information. For a Reg CF, you're going to have to file a Form C with the SEC. SEC doesn't, they don't validate it. They don't get strike it like, oh, yep, this is great. They don't do that. SEC doesn't look at, is this a sound investment? They look at, does this comply with the regulations and are you being transparent and open? So you as the investor will go to the site, read all the information, look at the pitch deck, go through the Form C, and then you decide, okay, I want to invest $500. And typically in the Form C, they will have, if it's equity and the shares are 10 cents a share, then you get X amount of shares for your $500. If it's debt, then you get your percentage back in the debt based on the $500 that you put in. And so depending on what security they're using, and you can do a safe note as a Reg CF on the portals as well. And typically with a safe, that's a simple agreement for future equity, meaning that when the first price round comes out, then you're going to realize your gain. But most of the time, you get that at a discount. And so, depending on what the security is, that's what you'll own. And then they have a transfer agent that kind of manages and maintains that just so it's on some sort of record.
And you'll be able to help us with this, right? Because it seems like a lot.
100%.
Because I mean, I'm sure when you talk to businesses, you have all walks of life come into you, right?
Yeah, at every stage, every type of business. And like I give every business owner the same spiel, I want to give you a lot of options. And so you have to think about your mission, your vision, your company. If you're not clear on that, there's no reason for us to help you do anything right now, unless you're going to pay me for strategic planning. But once you understand the exit strategy of the business, I was talking to a gentleman just earlier today. Tell me about your exit strategy. Now I can help you reverse engineer. Then when it's time to raise capital, we can come in as advisors and help you do that.
Right. And there are businesses that this is not worthwhile for you because you might never want to exit. There might be another business you're hoping for later on. So listening to this podcast, especially another business I'm in development that I would definitely see this as a possibility, is very good to look at these specific things, because certain businesses, and that's just basically asking the questions, working with you, Tyrus. So explain that process is basically you sit down with them and evaluate if they're the right fit for this or not, right?
100%. I tell businesses all the time, if you're a lifestyle business, and a lifestyle business is that business that comes to you and says, I just want to earn 200K a year. I want to make more than what I was making on my job so I can take an extra vacation. No, that's not a business that we work with. We're looking at businesses that want to be worth 100 million or more. Well, I just like my t-shirt company. I don't really do new t-shirt brands. I don't like to work with brand new restaurants. Like these are brutal industries. And if you're new and you only want to do, like I can hear that I only want to do, you're probably not the right fit. We're looking at companies who are thinking about how do I become $100 million company plus? How do I exit? Do I go public? Do I buy other businesses so I can scale massively? If you're not talking scale, then we liably are, we're not the right fit because you can work with us, but everything we're going to give you is for scale.
Right.
And you'll be paying for that. And it would be a disservice to you if you pay for a lot of services and you didn't utilize them.
I want to pass this back to Michael because Michael, this is a series of parts. We can't just have Tyrus on one time, Michael.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, this is great that we know he does this, and I'm going to take him a little bit more down the road today, and we'll definitely have a part 2 and a part 3 because we definitely need that. Because it's definitely not giving. It's like basically, Michael, I run into businesses every day that are starting up. I'm looking to raise capital. I'm in my capital raising, fundraising time. Can't hire you right now as a marketer, but down the road, and I run into these people all the time, Tyrus. And it's like, well, I kind of don't want to run into them because if they don't have the capital to work with me, then I'm like, no, thank you. I'll see you later. But so many of these businesses aren't thinking about these things, Tyrus. So my question to you is, when, how do you kind of evaluate that you think that this really, you can really fundraise, you can really crowdfund for this organization or this company?
I'll give this from a perspective of someone I just spoke to this morning when I was talking to him about his business. Um, he owns a jewelry shop. He mines directly from Africa. He refines the diamonds that they mine. And he was talking about franchise. He was talking about education around it. And there were some key things that he was saying. Manufacturing. Manufacturing is a huge deal. Having access to the source of the product, that's a huge deal. Refining it, it gave me Rockefeller feels. Like it started when I can start to map a business back to a mega business that I've researched or studied. I'm like, this is a good fit business. There are some businesses that are just going to make straight a lot of impact. We're seeing a lot of med tech, biotech, robotics, automation. These businesses are going to change the world. And so when I'm talking to businesses like that, and I'm looking at their numbers, a lot of times, Neil, it's their vision. Are they able to explain it to me clearly, or are they chasing? If I feel like you're chasing and I can't bring you back in, it's probably not a good fit. But if I can hear some of the opportunities and I know the ecosystem and the markets, and I can say, you know what, I can piece this together for you, and they say, okay, great, that's probably a great business. When I'm looking at service-based businesses and industries, especially HVAC, plumbing, electrical, in the world of AI, I don't think about AI by getting on Claude and ChatGPT. I'm thinking about the electricians who are going to make a whole lot of money because data centers need electricity, about the
Wow.
plumbers because data centers need water, about
Wow.
construction because in order to build a data center, you got to put some people in there to build it. And so these industries are still valuable and valid, and they're becoming overlooked. And our baby
Oh
boomers who
yeah.
have held these businesses for 20, 30 years, 40 years, they're getting ready to retire, which opens up the opportunity for entrepreneurship through acquisition, which we could do a whole
Yeah.
conversation
And
about
so
buying
you
a
have, I
business.
love all these. So we're going to finish this off by, I'm really interested in the whole crowdfunding thing. You really got to know how to market your brand, your business. If you're going to do crowdfunding, unless it's a business to business thing, then you really have to dominate LinkedIn and really do a lot of events and different things when it's a B2B. But if it's a B2C fundraise, you're looking at a totally different animal of really getting it out there and making the right fit and what works, right?
Absolutely. It is hinged, like Regulation CF is about marketing, and it's about having a clear, concise message. And it's about putting your ad dollars, and that goes back to capital stack. Maybe I do go to a bank and get 100 grand. Well, don't put the 100 grand necessarily into the business, put it into the Regulation
Right.
CF, put it into the ads. So then you can raise more money and pay that back with the use of proceeds. So it's about the capital stack. If you stack it properly, then you can market and pull that money in and sell your story, because you got to be able to sell your story. People have to be able to see the impact. Investors have to be able to see, how do I get my money back when I give you my money? And most of the time, it's not just simply getting my money back. It's, can your business make enough impact in order to get me my money back?
Now, see, people don't understand, the ugly businesses are worth the most amount of money. The boring businesses are the ones that are worth the most money. Give an example, electrician business doing 11, 12 million a year. It's the boring businesses. And imagine that in EBITDA with selling that business, what that business owner is going to take. And everyone that's involved in it does it. But I didn't think of that, Tyrus, of reverse engineering, looking at these data centers and other things to make this business a much bigger valuation and sell it, while also looking at those other businesses that are building these data centers and stuff, how they can scale unlimitedly through this process.
100%. 100%. It's all about looking at again, open up our eyes and putting the pieces together and the components. I tell some businesses this as a share, especially when they talk about the struggle and how hard it is and things like that. I tell them I get a treatment every 6 weeks. And when I'm sitting in the hospital getting that treatment, I'm looking at everything in that room. That's a business. The chair, the IV, the medicine itself, the needles, the Band-Aids, the gauze, the alcohol pads. Somebody's making. For Mother's Day, I took my wife out to a restaurant. I said, we got to get in the tablecloth business. Every time a new person come in, they switch the tablecloths out.
Right.
It's all around us. And these are the boring businesses that Michael just said that people overlook, because we want to be on the AI train, but we're not on the train of the things that we use every single day.
I feel for people that are on the AI train, unless they really have the right spot. Everyone needs to build AI into their business. That's the first recommendation I'll give to anybody. And then to scale it out, their business with AI, to be ready for the future. But to put all your eggs into an AI basket, you are gambling. And that gamble could be something so painful for you at the end that you just can't even imagine what could happen. That's the truth.
100%.
Because you never know what's going to happen. It's scary. So that's where you have to really consult with somebody like this. So what we're going to do, Michael, is we're definitely have Tyrus back on the show. Go to rainstormmediagroup.com. There'll be a page for Tyrus that you can schedule a call with him, to set up a call with us, and we'll connect you to Tyrus, or DM myself or Michael if you're interested in working with Tyrus. We really appreciate it, Tyrus. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil.
All right.
So Tyrus.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. One more time. Yeah, go.
No, go ahead, and I'll talk about next week.
All right. So that was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Reignstorm Radio Show, guys.